I'm Dr. Christopher Barker. Welcome back to Holding Space. Today I'm holding space with Julia Bellotti, who is an intern who's working with us this semester. Sometimes people show reluctance about working with interns, but I brought her here today to, show her off a little bit. And also to let you know that the people that we bring aboard as interns are as good as anybody who has a junior level license or even a senior level license. I wouldn't have anybody intern with us that I wouldn't go to see myself. So today we were talking a little bit about, what can we do on the show today? And we were talking about the possibility of a question that comes up sometimes for Julia and for everybody is we hear, what's the difference between stress and anxiety? And like, what is, a stressor and how do I know when I'm having anxiety, that sort of thing. And so we can talk a little bit more about that and the differences between them. But Julia, what would you say to someone who asks you the difference between stress and anxiety?
I would say stress is something that's like an external trigger where maybe, for example, for myself, maybe I'm stressed about an assignment and it's causing me a lot of stress. And I would say anxiety is constant worry. You're constantly worried about something all the time and it's really impacting your life. So stress is something that is triggering you, and anxiety is something that you're constantly worried about.
Yeah, anxiety is an internal event. It is a worry. Stress generally comes from the outside. I mean, we can stress ourselves by worrying about things, and we can create our own stressors. But in general, anxiety is just the thoughts in our head and the feelings that we have about things. And they can be chronic or acute. You can have a chronic stressor, which is something that happens just once in a while. An exam, if you're in a class, an evaluation, if you're working someplace and you're feeling really stressed about how that might go. And there are acute stressors also. If you're in a bad relationship and you're constantly fighting with your significant other, if you are in a combat situation, if you are in just like a really stressful job that has a lot of demands. Anxiety is a different ballgame, and generally it does come from internal mental events. We were talking before about a time that you had some overcoming of panic, and that's another thing too. You can have anxiety and panic. Panic is different from anxiety in that it's more intense. Often you don't know what the origin of a panic attack is. You can have an anxiety attack where you are suddenly very worried about something, or you can have a panic attack, which generally comes out of nowhere and your heart is racing, you can't breathe. This is what people go to the emergency room for, and then they come here. We hear this all the time. I really thought I was having a heart attack and dying. Your heart beats so hard it hurts your chest. It's a terrible thing. And I don't know if you feel comfortable sharing about your panic attack.
Yeah, sure. I was just saying this before that there was this one time that I was driving to my friend's house and I was really excited to see her. But, before I had some stress going on with school and I was losing sleep over it. I didn't sleep for like 3 days. And I was driving to my friend's house. I was on the New Jersey Turnpike, which is a very stressful highway already. And I just felt this overwhelming sensation of my body all of a sudden just started getting really hot. My head was really hurting. My heart was beating so fast. I was like, okay, let me pull over. I have to get gas anyway. And I just was sitting in the gas parking lot and I was just breathing really, really, really deep breaths. And I actually called my friend and I said, I don't know if I'm able to drive right now. And she said, no, you're totally fine. Get here whenever you can. I really want you to be safe. Take some deep breaths. Right now, everything seems really intense, but breathe. Everything's going to be okay. Panic attacks and anxiety attacks happen. Everybody gets them. And she just said, be safe and come when you can. So they happen. They happen to me as well. They happen to a lot of people. And I think discussing the difference between them is really important to continue to educate people who may not know the difference. And I'm learning the difference right now as we speak. They happen a lot more than we think.
So what was most helpful when you were having your panic attack?
I would say probably deep breathing definitely helped. And as well as the 5 senses, right? I was looking at 5 things that I see, 4 things that I hear, doing that as well. The 5 senses just keeps me grounded to make myself realize that I'm here, everything's fine. You're touching things, you're touching your steering wheel, you're hearing your car running, right? And that really also brought me back down as well. So definitely that grounding technique has really helped me in many different situations.
Yeah, that's true. And the one that she's talking about is one that you've probably heard of. You think of it's a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 using each of your senses. You think of 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things that you can smell, 1 thing that you could theoretically taste. You don't want to lick your steering wheel in a case like that, but you might want to say, for instance, I can taste my own saliva. Mm-hmm. I can taste lunch repeating on me. It can be anything, and you can use any of those for, it doesn't matter which one it is. You can say, okay, I got 5 things I can touch first, and I'm going to touch things around the car. But what it does is it takes you out of here and puts you back in touch with your body. And the hormones that are released during a panic or an anxiety attack, cortisol is released, adrenaline is released, and these are the things that make us want to move. And we can't move sometimes. That's just not practical. And sometimes it's the last thing you feel like doing. You kind of hunker down. Sometimes anxiety comes out in forms of panic. Sometimes it comes out in social anxiety. We may choose to avoid certain social situations or social situations altogether. And it can come out when least expected. So what would you tell somebody who was coming in and saying that they were having trouble with anxiety?
I would ask how they handle that anxiety first. I'm interested in when this happens to them, how do they handle it? And I would give them some techniques like we just discussed, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. Some deep breathing is really important. If you just hold your breath for 4 seconds, release for 4 seconds, right? I think deep breathing is really important. And I don't think many people realize how important actually just taking those deep breaths are, right? And it's so simple. You can do it anywhere at any time, right? If you're at work and you're having that anxiety or that stress, and just doing that deep breathing, inhaling for 4, exhaling for 4, you can do it right there on the spot, right? So these are easy techniques that you can just do anytime, anywhere. And I think I would also suggest maybe just taking a walk as well, right? If you're having that anxiety or stress in your house, if that happens, go outside and take a walk. I think exercise is also really important because you are changing your mind from what happened, from that stress or that anxiety. You're moving your body, which is really important. So those are some things that I would suggest.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up changing your mind, because that's another thing. One of the most effective techniques for dealing with anxiety is cognitive behavioral therapy. And the behaviors of exercise, walking, measuring your responses to things. There's another breathing technique that involves a fairly short inhale and a very long exhale. And that sort of resets your nervous system. So you can go. And I mean, do it till you're completely depleted of air. And do that like 3 times. I wouldn't do it more than that. You'll get dizzy. I've tried that, and you do get dizzy. But also changing your thoughts, the thoughts that you're having about whatever the situation is. Social anxiety. I'm afraid if I go to this place and something bad's going to happen, I'm going to, I don't know, forget to wear my pants. Or it could be something totally irrational. And a lot of irrational thoughts are at the root of cognitive behavioral issues. So we will sort of take a look at, okay, are you doing crystal ball thinking, which is, I imagine this is what's going to happen. Are we doing black and white thinking? It's all one or the other. There are a number of cognitive behavioral strategies, and we can go over those in a future broadcast when we talk about CBT. But again, being able to be here now, which I discussed last time, is really important, and it also centers you, takes you out of your head, takes you back to your body, and you're dealing with some of those really terrible sensations. Anything else you think we could add?
Yeah, I think that was really important that you mentioned actually reframing those negative thoughts, because, in that situation where I was driving my car, I was having a little anxiety as well about seeing this friend and, being in Philly, because Philly is Philly. And, and also driving on the turnpike as well, I was having anxiety doing that. And I was just having these negative thoughts. I really had to change my mindset on things. I've driven on the Parkway before, although is it scary? Yes, but I've driven there before. Philly is Philly, but it's also a place that I do love. And just thinking about the positives instead of the negatives, doing that and talking to my friend and her reminding me of those things, I was able to get back in the car and drive. I ended up having a good time and enjoying my time. So definitely reframing those negative thoughts and also rewriting those negative thoughts too and trying to change them into more positive and realistic thoughts also help as well. So that's a good point to bring up.
Yeah, no offense to anybody who's watching from Philly, but you live there, so you know. I go there a lot to sporting events. I'm familiar with the town. But yeah, reframing, thinking about things differently, also very important, getting in touch with the physical. And so we'll talk more about these things, and hopefully I can bring some more interns in to meet you. But I think Julie's doing a really good job, and by all means, if you call in and you want to see somebody, she is a good person to talk to. I'm going to leave you for now. Try to have a calm day and hold space, and we will see you again soon. Thanks.
Bye.